Good afternoon. We're coming to you live from Las Vegas at the Westgate Hotel and Casino. We've got a great episode in store for you today. We're going to talk about the World Cup of Pool. We're going to talk about the WPBA Soaring Eagles Masters, and we're going to look into the Billiard Education Foundation Junior National Championships. We've also got a live sit-down with the one and only Striking Viking, and we're going to take a walk down memory lane with the history of pool here in Las Vegas. All that and more right here, right now on Billiards Digest Live. Welcome to a special episode of Billiards Digest Live here in Las Vegas. I'm Mike Pinozzo. This is Jason Bowman.
Mike, it's good to be back, and it's been another whirlwind month for the pro pool circuit, both the men and the women. I know the last time we got together, we were excited about the World Cup of Pool kicking off, and that event certainly did not disappoint.
No, it didn't disappoint at all. It's always one of the great events. The World Cup of Pool is high drama in the pool world, with national pride at stake in two-man Scotch doubles competition. And the 32 teams that battled it out in Lugo, Spain, produced great action, big upsets, and one country lifting the trophy for the fourth time. More than a few teams looked well-armed to take home the hardware in Lugo, including the defending champions, Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz and David Alcaide, playing on home soil. Two-time champion Austria, featuring Albin Auschen and Mario He, were also on hand. And with Shane Van Boning and red-hot Skylar Woodward donning the red, white, and blue, the U.S. squad was one of the betting favorites. But Spain was out after the very first match, with Sanchez-Ruiz and Alcaide losing at the hands of the unseeded Team Philippines. And after cruising to an easy win over South Korea in the opening round, Van Boning and Woodward put in a miserable performance against Japan in the round of 16, dropping a 7-5 decision. Heartbreak hit Austria in the semifinals when he and Auschen battled back from an 8-5 deficit to tie the match, only to scratch on the break in the final match and fall to the Filipinos 9-8. The title match pitted the team of Johan Chua and James Aranis from the Philippines, unseeded to start the event, against surprise Germany, led by the always dangerous Joshua Filler, who was paired for the first time with 19-year-old Moritz Neuhausen. The German duo defeated New Zealand, Canada, Poland, and China to reach the final. But the Germans were no match for Chua and Aranis, who stalked the table with confidence and fired in gutsy shots with ease to build a 9-2 lead. The Germans fought back to within 2 games, but the Filipinos closed out the match 11-7, with Chua drilling home the final 9 and Aranis leaping onto the table as the dynamic duo claimed the World Cup of Pool title. For the Philippines, it marked the 4th time the nation had won the title, with legends Efren Reyes and Francisco Bustamante winning the inaugural event in 2006 and again in 2009. Dennis Arcolo teamed with Lee Van Corteza to win the country's 3rd title in 2013. But in 2023, it was the 31-year-olds Chua and Aranis hoisting the trophy. Great stuff.
Yeah, certainly some surprises there, Mike, at the World Cup of Pool. And, of course, the Filipinos churning out some more elite-level talent, another generation of young superstar players coming out of there. No surprise, really.
Yeah.
But so the World Cup of Pool invitational event, obviously there's no bearing on the world rankings, the Mosconi points, but there were a handful of smaller regional events. There was one in Europe, one in Asia, I believe one here in the United States. What can you tell us about events that did have bearing on the points?
Well, yeah, they did have, definite bearing on the points. There were regional ranking events, as you said, in the U.S., the Philippines, and Scotland, and the winners earned really valuable points. American Shane Van Boning, Taiwan's Ping Chung Ko, and Spain's David Alcaide each earned world 9-ball ranking points with wins at those regional ranking events in Des Moines, Iowa, Quezon City, Philippines, and Glasgow, Scotland over the past month. Here are the updated rankings, with Spain's Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz still the 2-year points leader and Shane Van Boening in the number 2 spot. There's likely to be some movement in the next week, though, as the pros descend on full to Germany for the 2023 European Open. A full field of 256 players will be on hand when action commences on Tuesday, with 255 of them trying to unseat defending champion Albin Auschen of Austria. Auschen won the 2022 European Open, beating Van Boening in the title match. One of the American players hoping to do some damage in Germany will be four-time Team USA member Tyler Steyer, who's having a solid year with a second-place finish in the Predator Wisconsin Open, 5th at the Bob Stocks Memorial, and 17th place at the Spanish Open. We caught up with Steyer in Belgium, where he was spending a few days training with former Team USA captain Johan Reisink ahead of that European Open. Tyler Steyer, welcome to the show from Belgium, correct?
Yeah, what's going on?
Not too much. When did you get over to Belgium? This is, coming in ahead of the European Open. When did you get over to Belgium? You're staying with former Team USA coach and your personal coach, Johan Reisink. When did you get over there?
Yeah, I got here yesterday. Just come over here, get over jet lag a little bit, and then I'm going to drive to Germany with Johan tomorrow.
So what is the practice regimen prepping you for the European Open?
Break is huge in this format, so sharpening up the break, making sure it's consistent, and then just sharpening up a few things, few certain shots that might not be comfortable with, or safeties, or just trying to clean things up. If you're trying to prepare the day before, 2 days before event, you're in bad shape. So
little late in the game.
just cleaning things up. That's all.
Yeah. And is this as much, getting you mentally prepared, confidence level up, things like that? Is that as important in this type of, training meeting before an event?
I would say confidence is high right now. I'm striking the ball nice. I'm focusing more on physical fitness right now than anything, because when you feel good, you play good. And
Right.
I've noticed that when I'm in the best shape, I just mentally you're stronger. Just you walk better. You can go match to match to match with no problem. So if my physical fitness is good, then everything else takes care of itself.
What does your physical fitness regimen consist of?
Running 3 times a week and lifting weights 3 times a week, and then some mobility.
Okay.
So nothing too crazy where an injury could pop up, but enough to stay in good shape and feel good.
You don't want to get muscle bound before a tournament.
I mean, lifting weights helps me personally.
Does it?
I mean, I don't do sets of 3 reps or 5 reps. I don't like power lift or anything, but
Yeah.
lifting weights the day of a match or something, that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. So the European Open, another one of these Matchroom Open events. There's more of them, this year than ever before. Are you getting kind of accustomed to what these are like? Before it would only be 1 or 2 a year, and that was a big change from the other events you're playing in. You're starting to get like a routine for these events?
Sure, absolutely. You kind of get used to, when practice is, and then now they're doing you play 2 matches on the day you play, like the first day you play.
Yeah.
So I actually don't play till Wednesday, so I have Tuesday off. So I probably won't hit balls at the venue the night I get there, just because the table conditions are going to change so much in the day and a half before my match. So I'll just relax, get there. Just like I said, I'm here getting over jet lag, and then just gonna hit the practice table, maybe 2-3 hours before I play, and go out there and give them hell.
That sounds good. The European Open, you played really well this year in a lot of events. You've taken down some big scalps. Your confidence level must be pretty high. Do you have a goal around anything for this event that you're kind of, focusing on?
Not really, because the format's so unpredictable. You've just seen some crazy matches where, for example, I think it was the UK Open, Cheng Jun Lin and Sanjin didn't make the last 64, right? So to think about that, it's crazy. There's so many good players now, where the break format's a little bit weird. With the small pockets, you can miss, a 6 or 7 ball if you're not focusing, and you can lose a set, pretty easily. So it's a different game. A lot of times earlier, the guy that would win the safety battles early in the rack would win matches and stuff like that. But now I see a lot of times where a player is winning the safety battle, getting the first shot, but because the pockets are smaller, they're not getting out. So I've actually seen that a lot. So there's a lot more pool being played, and there's some weird matches that have happened. So it makes things interesting. But I like the smaller pockets. I like the break box. I like the way everything's going, because when you have one on the spot magic rack, or the game's just too predictable, it's kind of a broken game at that point. Players are too good. They know what they're doing. So there's a lot of variety in it now.
Are you enjoying playing this year more than you have in other years because of, the stacked fields and more opportunities to play? And, there's a lot of travel this year. There's a lot of running around to playing these events, but it's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's better than not having the events. That's for sure. And, some events you might, not go to one or the other just to kind of, prepare yourself for others, right?
Right.
You can't go to all of them, I think, or else you'll get burnt out. But yeah, just trying to go to the big ones and stay sharp for those, and maybe a small one here and there. But yeah, it's definitely better than not having enough events.
Yeah, sure. So let's talk Moscone Cup. You've been on Team USA
Sure.
3 times, shooting for
Four.
number four
Four
times.
times.
So shooting for number 5, I'm sure. Right now in the Moscone Cup rankings, you're right on the outside looking in as far as top 5 goes. Not sure how far away you are from number 3, which is an automatic spot. But what are your expectations, coming up in these upcoming events? Are you gunning for particular points? Is it just play as best you can play and see where the cards lay?
Yeah, I think if you get too wrapped up to it, you might drive yourself a little bit crazy.
Yeah,
Um, because you can't control what your fellow countrymen are going to do, So, I mean, BJ Esser played fantastic in the tournament in Virginia and beat Federer. He had a great 2 days and beat everybody, right?
right.
So you can't, if you follow the other guys too close, I think you'll drive yourself nuts. So I just try and work on my game, try and be a better player tomorrow than I was yesterday, and then whatever happens, happens.
Well, obviously you would have a good shot at being a wild card pick as well, because you are out there at all these events playing. You have played really well this year, and beating a couple of players where they were kind of, this is a good win to have under your belt. So you have to be
Sure.
pretty confident or feeling pretty good about your chances to make the team again.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to pick my 5, I would definitely be in there.
In there.
So, I mean, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That's, if I don't make it by points, that's someone else's opinion and something I can't control, right?
Right,
So,
right.
but I feel like I should be out there. I feel like I give us a better chance to win than if I'm not there. So,
Yeah, yeah. As far as Team USA goes in general, how do you feel? How do you assess the lineup, even though it's not set? I mean, the way USA players are playing this year, it seems like they're performing better overall. And a lot of these players, Skylar's been going deep in a lot of these events. Shane is Shane. Shane Wolford is won a couple big matches along the way. Do you feel like, this team is, whoever's on it is giving us a better chance than in the last year or two?
yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I mean, if you look at the final score the last 2 years, it hasn't been what we wanted, but we were leading after day 2 both years, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
we had a bad day 3 2 years in a row, and that really messed us up. But we had the lead after day 2, so we were definitely favorites to win at that point, at halfway point,
Right.
right? So I feel like we can win with the team that we put together this year or the last 2 years. I feel like we could have won.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely.
Good point. So I'll let you go on this. The players, they're yet to be chosen. And part of the reason they're yet to be chosen is, well, there's points, and then there's also going to be captain's picks. They're announcing the captain this week. Have any thoughts on captaincy for Team USA? Want to go out on a limb on anything?
Nobody's leaked anything. Like, I swear. Like, I haven't really dug too much, but I'm like, hey, you heard anything? No,
Yeah.
nothing. So, I mean, it could be Nick Varner for all I know. I don't know. Like, I have no clue. Zero.
Yeah.
So
But
I'll be just as surprised as you guys. It could be Jeremy again. I don't know.
well, Jeremy would be, yeah, I don't think there would be anything wrong with picking him again. He's been pretty solid. You've liked working with him over the last couple of years?
I think he's getting better and better at every year. So I hope he does have a year, 2, 3, however, whatever. I think he's doing great. But if he's not the guy, then what do you do? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, Tyler, I appreciate your coming on the show with us today, and best of luck in the European Open. Best of luck the rest of the year going forward.
thanks, appreciate that, Mike.
Well, count me as a big Tyler Steyer fan. I think he's got a great head on his shoulders. I mean, you hear him talk about his fitness regimen. I
Right.
think he's well spoken. He's a smart guy, and I think the sky's the limit for him. And I have to agree. I'm hoping to see him on the Mosconi Cup team. It'd be great if he put in a good showing at the European Open.
Would be great. I think he's going to be on the team either way. And he does. He carries himself very professionally. You can tell he treats this as a professional sport and himself as an athlete. And that's a big thing.
Absolutely. So the men are not the only thing happening over the last month in the pro pool circuit. Of
Right.
course, the big WPBA event, the WPBA Masters. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, the women have had a lot to play for in 2023 here in the U.S., and the Masters is the biggest of their events. It's a $64,000 event with a $15,000 top prize, and this year's featured a packed field with Kelly and Allison Fisher, Christina Tkach, Zhu Shen Wei, Kristina Zlateva, and Margaret Fefilova-Steyer trying to prevent Austria's Jasmine Auschen from repeating her 2022 win. Rising star Fefilova-Steyer knocked Auschen into the losers bracket in the third round and proceeded to go unbeaten to the winners bracket final before losing a tight 8-6 decision to Kelly Fisher. Fefilova-Steyer settled for third place after Auschen got her revenge in the losers bracket finale. That set up the title rematch of 2022 with Auschen and Kelly Fisher. The final was a back-and-forth affair with the two legends trading leads throughout. Fisher held the last lead at 7-6 before Auschen took a 9-7 lead. After seeing Fisher trim the lead to 9-8, Auschen worked through the next rack to secure a 10-8 win and her second straight Masters triumph.
Absolutely. So we've had the men. We've talked about the women. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the pros in waiting, if you will, that were in action this month as well.
Yeah, well, pros and waiting is the right way to put it. And as we'll see, some of America's top junior players are already crossing cues with the pros pretty regularly. But the annual Billiard Education Foundation Junior National Championships took place a week ago in Quincy, Illinois. More than 100 kids were there vying for scholarships and spots in the World Junior Championships in Austria later this year. And boy, did the kids have plenty of opportunities to play big table pool. The boys competed in under 22 straight pool, under 22 8-ball, U18 10-ball, U16 10-ball, and U14 9-ball. The girls competed in U22 8-ball, U22 straight pool, U18 10-ball, U18 9-ball, and U14 9-ball. There was also a under 10 boys and girls 8-ball division. The big winners were 13-year-old Savannah Easton of Las Vegas, who competed in the title match in all 5 girls divisions, winning straight pool, under 18 10-ball, and under 14 9-ball. Sophia Mast of Wesley Chapel, Florida, won the U22 8-ball and under 16 9-ball titles. In boys action, 16-year-old Sam Henderson of Bettendorf, Iowa, captured both the under 22 straight pool and under 18 10-ball titles, while Sacramento's Adrian Prasad won the under 16 boys 10-ball crown, and Jazz McConney of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, won the under 14 9-ball title. Wisconsin's Dalton Nelson captured that under 10 8-ball title. And like you said, Jason, technically these are junior players, but a lot of them are on the fast track to competing in professional events. And a few of them are already making waves on the pro circuit. We spoke to 2 of them right here in Las Vegas. So how cool is this to have a couple of the heroes of the Billiard Education Foundation Junior Nationals here with us, Sam Henderson and Savannah Easton. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I'm great.
You're always in a good mood. Savannah, 5 finals at the Nationals.
Yeah.
Sam, you were 22 under straight pool and 18 under
10-ball.
10-ball.
Yep.
Winner. But a big part of what you guys, you did great at the Nationals. but your aspirations are much bigger than that. You both play in pro events and you aspire to be professional pool players. Tell me about that. Tell me when this part kind of sunk in that, you know, I like juniors, but I want to play the big people.
I feel like I can get better experience playing in the pro events. So I don't know. You know, don't really like playing juniors because I feel like I get more pressure, to be honest. When I play pros, I feel like I'm the underdog. So I can just, you know, freewheel, yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm also not used to playing junior events, so coming back into it was my first event. The first event was the 8-ball, and I was nervous.
Yeah. Well, tell us about, you finished tied for 5th at the Predator Wisconsin Open Pro event with 64 great killer players, including Josh Filler, Petter Gorst, Tyler Steyer, among others. Tell us what that felt like going through that tournament. You beat Mika Immonen, you beat Kang Lee, you beat Jeremy Seaman, you beat Nguyen An. So, you know, you did really well there.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like as you were going through those matches?
When I started off the tournament drawing Mika, I was like, well, here we go. This might be a short tournament for me. And then I knew I would have to play if I lost that match, I'd have to play the loser of Evan Lunda or Jeremy Seaman. And then if I won, I would play the winner of them.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm going to try it. So I ended up beating Mika. I was happy. That was my most nervous match. We both didn't play very well, but, you know, I ended up coming through on top. That was good. And then I played Jeremy. Started off bad. He beat me 4-0 in the first set. And then that's the nice thing about that event is you get 2 sets.
Right.
So I came back in the second set, and then I played really good in the shootout. So that was good. And then from there, I caught a gear, and then I played Vitaly Petsura in the quarterfinals, and he got me.
Yeah, well,
He got me.
But what, you know, mentally, what was your approach to each match? Were you just like starstruck? Were you trying to bear down? What are you learning about yourself when you're in these type of situations?
At the beginning, I would say I was starstruck, and then going through, I got more confident in my game, and then I just had a better stroke. I was more comfortable.
Yeah. And you're 17, correct?
16.
16.
Yep.
And Savannah, I know you're 13. You're a teenager now, and you're at all the pro events. You want to take on these pro events any opportunity you get, right?
Yeah.
And you finished tied for 5th at the Sledgehammer Open in Bristol, Tennessee, 7th and 8th at the WPBA Fairfield event in Iowa, 17th in Iron City, and 13th at the Masters. And Wisconsin Open, you were 17th, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, you're throwing yourself into the fire. What's that all about for
Well,
someone your age?
I mean, I have to thank my parents, obviously. Whatever my mom sees, she's like, you know what, I'll get you there. I mean, no matter what it takes, you know? So I'm very grateful for them. It was definitely nerve-wracking the first time I played my first WPBA event. And my first match, I went hill, and I was just like, maybe I can, you know, run with some of these women. And then I started playing more and more, you know, and then I just got more experience, and it definitely helps the experience. So playing them, I think, is definitely, like Sam said, less pressure than playing the juniors because, like, you know, you're the underdog and you're not supposed to beat them yet. And then you run close to them and everyone's just like, wow. And, you know, but playing those juniors, it's more pressure because, you know, especially after you play the pro events, I mean,
You feel like you're supposed to win.
Yeah, well, not me. A bunch of people were like, even my grandpa, he was like, oh, you play pro events, you got this. I was like, oh my
Well, a
god.
lot of junior players are really good.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good
exactly.
junior players out there, right?
A lot of them can compete with the pros. They just don't get the chance I do. But
Yeah.
you know, they don't get as much recognition Sam definitely plays amazing and just like doesn't get the recognition he
Yeah.
deserves, you know?
But playing those events, you get that experience, and you learn the next time what to not do that you made the mistake the previous time, and so you get better and better. What are your aspirations? What are your goals as far as, or do you set goals for the rest of this year, for next year, in terms of where you want to be? I think you're ranked in the top 14 in the WPBA right now, which is, you're ranked higher than your age. Well, no, right, not your age, but you know, you're doing really well. What kind of goals do you have, Sam?
By the end of the year, I want to be a 720 Fargo.
Okay.
I want to be playing like a 730, but have a 720. I don't play in many events that actually report, but I want to be playing like a 730. But that's like this year goal. Overall, like my 3-4 year goal, I would like to be, you know, in the running for the Moscone team. That's the end goal, I think. Not the end goal, but the end goal for my 3-4 year run.
It's something to take a run at. It's
Yeah.
something very tangible that you can see.
You
ahead of
definitely
and
play
say-
like that enough to get there, trust me.
Thank you.
I mean,
And so, what are your goals?
well, you said I was ranked 14th right now in the WPBA. By the end of the year, I want to at least get top 5. So,
Top 5.
yeah, like top
So who are you
5.
going to bump out of the top 5? You've got Kelly Fisher, Allison Fisher, Jasmine, Wee Wee, Rita,
Yeah.
Margaret, Christina.
I'm
both
coming
Christinas. So
for Kelly's spot, okay? I'm coming for Kelly's spot, you know? But, I mean, I am not going to set a goal for 720 because obviously I do not play that high yet. But my goal is probably 620
yeah.
by the end of the year.
So tell us, you know, what you do from a practice standpoint and a really focus on your game standpoint. You can't just show up at tournaments and assume that at each tournament you're going to get better, right? What kind of time do you guys put in?
I would say I play an hour and a half a day.
Okay.
My practice schedule definitely needs to improve.
I agree.
The worst part of my game is my break, and I don't ever practice it. It's something that I need to start practicing, and I need to start practicing for like 3 hours a day instead of an hour and a half. And all I really do is throw balls out and shoot them.
So you don't practice with any purpose. You don't.
And
main
you're that
purpose-
good? Are you serious?
The main purpose I have is working on my pre-shot routine and my mechanics. That's the main thing I'm doing when I'm hitting balls. I'm not really focused on making the balls as much as I am just working on my mechanics. But when I do miss, then I know something's a little wrong.
Yeah. Who works with you? Who do you have a coach? Who do you?
I had a lesson with Anthony Beeler. He was the instructor of the decade for 2010 to 2020. So I went down to his house last year and had like a 7-hour lesson with him. It was a really good lesson. Just here and there, I'm starting to remember things that he told me, and I'm starting to put it into my game, and it's helping.
Yeah. And you play until you fall asleep.
Sure. No, I basically practice like Sam, but I don't do an hour and a half a day. I do like, spread out like 3 hours a day, and then like every other day, like 3 hours every other day. And then
And do you have a practice routine, or do you just throw balls out and hit them as well?
it depends on how I feel that day,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm in the mood for drill. Sometimes I just want to throw it out. Sometimes I practice my break. And then, my biggest weakness is also the break too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still growing, so I still
Yes,
need
you
to
are.
put more power into it, but I'm mostly focused on control right now.
When
And
you do drills, what's your favorite drill? What's your most challenging
favorite
drill?
I don't know what it's called, but there's this website that has like, it says drill 124, drill, there's like drills, and then there's like levels, like level 5 or level 1, and then it goes to like
So
level.
you always try to challenge yourself to
Yeah,
higher
yeah.
levels of, okay. So you're putting this type of time into your practice. What about school?
Oh, we're on summer break. It's next week though, on Tuesday.
Now, you're schooling online,
Yeah.
and you're
Hybrid,
schooling
yeah.
online
Yes.
as well, correct?
Yep.
And how much time do you know, don't lie, I mean, how much time do you put into your schoolwork?
You go.
Okay. I wake up probably, during school, I'd probably wake up 8 to 8:30, and I probably do school for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then go play pool for like 15 to 30 minutes, and do another hour and a half to 2 hours of school.
Okay.
And I just take little breaks and to reset my mind and practice a little bit, and then go back.
Are you a good student? Do you like school?
I do. Well, when I'm online, it gives me something to do. Because in summertime, all I'm doing is pool. And when I'm at home, sometimes it just gets boring. I mean, like I said, I don't have a driver's license. I can't go anywhere. I'm fine with that. But it gives me something to do, definitely. So I like it.
Your schooling?
Yeah, I basically do the same as Sam's. It's like a hybrid school, so I go to school once a week for 3 hours for any questions or like, socialize or whatever.
Right.
And I work probably around 3 hours a day, but sometimes I travel every month pretty much. So whenever I have to travel, I usually get it done on Mondays. And it's due on Fridays, so I get it done on Mondays, and if I have to get all my schoolwork done, that takes around 8 hours. So sometimes I take breaks, I do the same as Sam. I take some breaks and hit some balls sometimes just to get loose, and then I get back to school. So I'm a straight A student.
Favorite subject?
I like history and geography.
I like history.
History?
Yeah.
You guys are both making history in pool. You both also, as you mentioned before, have incredibly supportive parents who really allow you to chase this dream. Any idea how many miles you guys have flown this year?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because you guys go everywhere.
I don't know.
Your parents both go with you everywhere. That's fantastic.
I think by now my mom can get every flight for free on Southwest.
And Sam, you through the Billiard Education Foundation Juniors, you advanced to the World Junior Championships in Austria, and you don't like to fly.
Do not like flying.
So your mother made a deal with you. And
Yep.
if she did something, you would fly. What did she do for you?
So I hate flying, and I told her, hey, we're going to Vegas. If you jump off the stratosphere, I will go represent Team USA in Austria.
It's nothing really big, just jumping up the stratosphere,
I kept bringing it up to her, 1,000 feet, here we go. And she just kept getting nervous, and so I was trying to get her maybe back out. She didn't. She did it on yesterday, I think, or no, Thursday, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But she did it, and I'm going.
So you're going.
I'm going.
You excited now? I mean, did that show you anything about, okay, I don't have anything, if she's not scared of that, I shouldn't be afraid of flying?
No. I'm still terrified of flying, and especially over the ocean. I will say that I am excited to play in that tournament, though.
Well, if you want to be a pro pool player, it's something you're going to have to learn how to travel and fly, right? Because you can't take cars everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. This was getting here was actually my first time flying in like 5 years, so I was super nervous getting on this flight here.
Take a boat.
I watched the Titanic. I don't want to do that either.
Well, guys, we really appreciate you guys being with us today. You're both terrific pool players and great young people too. So we're happy to have you here, and good luck. Good luck going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really fun catching up with these future champions here at the Westgate. And one of the great things about being on location is that you run into great stars of the game, is they're here to support teams and support players. And we were lucky enough to stumble in one of my favorites and one of the all-time greats, Ava Lawrence. Ava, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'll tell you what, you have no idea what an honor it is for Ava to be here today.
I'm like, greatness. What can I say?
No, the great thing, we have history,
Yes.
Ava, and you had an amazing career. And one of the things I wanted to do today was kind of take you on a little trip through your pool career. And as I said, we've got history, and it goes all the way back to here.
Easy there about the history. He didn't mean that. Yeah.
It goes back to here. You recognize her?
Oh my God, 1981, the World Open in New York.
At the Roosevelt
Unbelievable.
Hotel.
Yeah,
And you were there as part of the Swedish Billiard Federation,
right.
right? And the tall gentleman is Bo Sternberg, who was the head of the federation at that point.
Right,
And
and
the
then-
far right is Jürgen Carlson, and the far left is Christer Lofström, right?
Yeah, very good.
And
We had all won the European Championship in Switzerland, the very first one Sweden actually participated in. So we all won the straight pool championship, and the federation kind of backed us as far as the trip to the World Open in New York. So that was pretty cool.
and really, in those days, Sweden was kind of at the forefront, of American pool.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
Europe. They were like the country in Europe for American pool. In fact,
We
Christer
swept.
Lofström won the junior
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
pool championship that year, playing a lot of these East Coast kids who grew up
Right,
playing straight
right.
pool. So yeah, the Swedes at that point were the dominant pool country.
True, very true.
Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was great.
And of course, as we all know, Bo and Jürgen and Christer all went back to Sweden. You, no.
Not so much. No, I kind of started a wave there. I was the first one to come over here and actually stayed. So it was kind of a crazy. My parents weren't that crazy about it being 17 years old at the time, but it kind of turned out to be the right thing. So
Yeah. We've never looked back.
Never looked back.
Speaking of never looking back, let's look back at this photo. That's a
Oh my
great photo of
God.
Willie Mosconi, I have to
It's
say.
tremendous. Yeah.
So what year is this?
This was 1982, the year after. I was working to kind of support my pool habit
Right.
at
As many
Len-
players had to back then.
Yeah, Lansing Playboy Club as a Playboy bunny, and as it turned out, kind of not, had nothing to do with it, but we ended up having the 7-ball championship for women, the first one, and it was in Atlantic City.
Right.
And they asked if I would wear my costume and do a little thing with.
That's a big
and
ask.
I was not happy. Vicky Paskey, one of the other pros on tour, she says, "Hey, I know how miserable you were about this whole thing. I did not want to do it. I wanted to be there as a player." And then I had to shoot a shot. And for those of you who have never been a Playboy bunny,
I'm one.
yeah, but when you kind of bend over in a suit, it's
Yes.
kind of tricky. So
Yes, I
yeah,
imagine.
I was not happy about that. But
Yeah,
the
you don't-
tournament was fun. That was great.
You don't look overly excited
I was
here
not.
as Willie looks like he's explaining how to play pool to someone who's never played before because
know.
you're wearing a Playboy bunny
I'm a
outfit.
female. Back then it was like, Willie. Yeah,
But you could play a little bit.
I played a little bit.
And here's a photo of you. This was the first WPA World
Yep.
9-Ball Championships in Bergheim, Germany,
Sure was.
1990.
1990.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was on the board of directors and we were fighting hard to try to get to, back then when I was playing early on, there could be 11 world championships in one year.
Yeah.
Especially
Anybody who
on the
wanted
men's
to call
side.
their event
Yeah,
a world
they
championship
just called it a world
did.
championship.
Right.
So we were trying to organize and working with the industry. Jim Bakula was the president then of the Billiard Congress of America, and we were working closely. By then, he was also my sponsor, so I had a lot of time working with that. Jürgen Sandman was really the one behind the whole thing, and he's also from Sweden and was involved with the European Billiard Federation
Right.
at the time. So it kind of became the WPA at the time, and I guess still alive
Yeah.
and doing their thing. But what was cool about it is they pulled this off, and it was huge. We had a huge crowd, and it
was a
was
big
the
deal.
first, like the official world
Right.
championship.
Right.
So yeah,
And all the countries were duly represented by their federations,
Yeah,
and
it was
people were
great.
picked on merit.
It was
and
great.
yeah,
yeah,
great stuff.
fun trips. Oh my gosh.
This photo, I took this photo at the U.S. Open in Virginia, and it's always been one of my favorite photos of you because it's that you didn't do what I wanted you to do, ball type of photo. But your looks at the table were always classic.
Yeah. I think Belinda and I had the best looks as far as if the balls didn't do what we wanted them to do, if
They knew
somebody
it.
shocked us in the crowd, it used to be the deadpan kind of look. So
Yeah.
And the hair, and there's always the hair.
The hair. Well, this was
It was
this
the
was
90s in my
this was
defense.
your big hair days. Yeah, which was great stuff. Which also led to this.
Yeah.
And here is the cover that changed a lot for a lot of people
Yeah.
at that time. Not only yourself, but for the WPBA, for the men, for
pool,
pool in
period,
general.
yeah.
The cover of the New York Times Magazine, an article that a woman writer spent a lot of time on. It was going to be about the men, I think, originally, and it kind of changed its course over the course of her interviewing people.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
no,
became
actually-
the focus of the whole
No,
article.
actually, I was from the beginning. She spent a week with me leading
Right.
up to this whole thing. It's like I went on the Montel Williams show in LA. She came out there. She spent a week in my hometown in Lansing, and then where I lived at the time. And then she came to the WPBA championship.
Right.
And then she went to Reno to do the something on the men as
Men,
well.
right? Yeah.
And it was just, I had no idea.
You were in Europe when it came out, weren't you? Or
I was in Sweden.
You
yeah,
were in
visiting
Sweden
my
when it came,
family.
right?
Yeah. So it was.
The
it
initial
was
response was
crazy. Well, I had an argument with her and with the publisher, editor, whoever it was, because they wanted to send a photographer to the pool room in Lansing where I was and have a picture done. And in a photo shoot. And I said, I don't have time. I'm leaving for Sweden in 2 days. I don't have time to do a picture. I can send you like a promo picture. And they went, no,
No, we don't do that.
We're looking for a picture. And it was supposed to be not the cover. It was supposed to be just a picture. And a very famous photographer ended up coming out. He said, bring me everything that you have from torn jeans all the way to the dressiest thing
sequins,
you have.
yeah.
Yeah, and my friend in Palm Springs had just made me buy that dress. So okay. So the whole thing turned into this picture. I go to Sweden, and by the time I come back, Sherry Stout calls me up. She says, Ava, or I called her from the airport, Ava, all hell's broken loose. I said, what? She says, you have no idea. And she met me at the airport, and then, same
It was-
pool room I was at. And I remember the guy working behind the bar. He calls me up. He says, yells across the pool room. He says, Ava. I said, yeah. Ava, you got to come here. I said, I'm running out. He says, David Letterman's on the phone. So, I mean, the response from this whole
it blew up.
thing, yeah, and the next year we had already prepared the WPBA Classic Tour, so we got media galore everywhere we went. LA, New York, Chicago, Miami, everywhere we got local media. It was huge for our tour. That just the timing of it was very fortunate. So
Yeah. It's great stuff. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it was a great
Who
time
knew?
in pool. Who knew? And who knew that you would win the World Nine Ball Championship
2 years
in
later,
Arlington Heights, Illinois,
Yeah.
right? And this photo I also took. And explain to us why you're looking at a white towel.
the white towel. I played unbelievably well at that tournament. Every match was just, I was playing great. And I played Jeanette Lee, the Black Widow, in the finals.
Right.
And I was running out on the last rack. I was either seven.
No, you're on the nine. When
I was
she-
on the 9, but it was like a blowout match.
Right.
And I'm getting ready to shoot the 9 for the championship, and she threw in the towel.
This towel came sailing
Yeah,
over your shoulder
yeah.
because you could tell you're looking at the shot here, and the towel came over
I
your
already
shoulder,
knew I was
landed
going
on
to
the
win.
table.
It wasn't as super easy, but it was very makeable. I just took one quick look, and she threw in the
I
towel.
want to get your feeling on this because I've always looked at that photo and thought, if I was getting ready to shoot the final 9 ball to win a world championship, my first world title, I want to know the feeling of watching that ball disappear.
Yes.
Did you feel like you got cheated a little bit out of that moment?
Well, yes, out of the big moment of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I was cheated, like it was intentional. I
Yeah,
think
right.
But it would be different if it was the second match of the tournament.
Right.
But for the championship, you want to have that. You want to make that last ball
Yeah, you want
and
to see it
go.
disappear and
Yeah,
just and,
so
and
that
know
was
what
kind of
that,
it.
yeah.
That this is the picture. That's left. This is like the one
This is
from
the
the World
moment.
Championship.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was okay. That was great. That proved something to myself there, so that was great.
Oh, yeah, it was terrific. So we'll move on to 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And you're inducted into the Billiard Congress of America Hall of Fame. And poetically, the president of the Billiard Congress at that time was your Brunswick sponsor boss, John Stransky. That had to be a
that
nice
was cool.
moment.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. I mean, to have him be able to do that, and we've become good friends since.
Right.
He stepped down as that, but we've spent a lot of time. But and to have family and friends and everybody there.
And Jerry Orbach.
And Jerry Orbach was there. Yeah, yeah. It was a very cool kind of thing. People said we don't have Hall of Fame in Sweden. Oh, I got to tell you the story too. We don't have Hall of Fame in Sweden, but I knew it was a big deal. Obviously, I'd been in the country long enough, so it's kind of a wow. I've arrived. I'm there with the big names like your Mosconis and your Gene Belucas and Fats. I mean, all this stuff, kind of mind blowing. But the funny thing of this is because we didn't have Hall of Fame in Sweden,
Right.
or in most countries, or no countries in Europe, my father. I was trying to explain what Hall of Fame was. And he was visiting, and there was like a swimsuit issue that my ex-husband had, or I had at home, or maybe it was Mitchell that had it. And it said, the Hall of Fame of like swimsuit. He says, you're gonna
wear a swimsuit again?
He thought it was gonna be in the magazine.
Haven't you done enough with the bunny outfit?
Yeah, enough already. So yeah.
Great moment. What did that mean to be in the Hall of Fame?
It's like I said, I don't know what it really means. I mean, it's the one thing that you get without actually winning it, per se.
Right.
You represent your sport the best way you can. You win the required championships. You're nominated, you get elected. It's kind of it's an overwhelming thing as far as your career. It's weird when it happens before your career is over.
Right.
You're still
Right.
playing, and now you're in the Hall of Fame. And I mean, most sports, it's after your career is over. But yeah, it was. It's pretty cool. It's something that you always keep. It's kind of like winning the world championship. You'll always have been a world champion.
Yeah, it's something that never goes
yeah.
away. Well, after that, you were still playing, but you did hit a little bit of a lull
Yes.
in championship titles
Yep.
until 2012. And here's a photograph of 2012. You win the Masters,
Yeah.
the WPBA Masters. Did you wonder if you were going to win again by that point?
I did because I had kind of, I wasn't playing as much. I was doing a lot of exhibitions
Right.
at the time, traveling
A lot
around
of
like
work,
crazy,
right.
a lot of stuff. And focusing on that, I had, just a whole bunch of other things I was dealing with. But I made up my mind. I said, I will never become number one again because I know I'm not going to put the time into
Right.
it. I had neck surgery. I had a lot of that kind of issues going on. But I want to win one more tournament. And said that to Mitchell probably about 2 weeks before. And I take that back, about 6 months before. And so I had worked really hard at it. Brunswick sent me a cue to say, we want you to test this cue. I hit a couple balls with it, and I told Mitchell I'm playing with it. So that was less than 2 weeks before the tournament. And I was just on, you know what I mean? I was really hungry. And I think that's a big part of it. Playing well is one thing, but really giving everything you got, being hungry.
Yeah. And you
it
beat
just turned out.
Allison Fisher in the final, correct?
Yeah, I beat Monica Webb, Guyang Kim, Jasmine, and then Allison in the final. So it was really, it wasn't like I got a good draw, you know what I mean? I played and beat all the current top players at the time, so.
So now we'll transition to this photograph. And this is one of my proudest moments.
You were such a good, well, you shook a little bit. I remember the ball moving just a hair.
I was a little shaky there, but I still have my shirt that said I survived one of Ava Lawrence's trick shot shows.
There was no blood or anything
There
that
was no
time.
blood. No, that was a lot of fun. That
Gosh,
was in Chicago.
that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Oh, was that at,
City Billiards.
City Billiards.
Yeah.
There was a snowstorm. Do you remember that?
There was a
Yeah.
snowstorm. We were going to have a big outing with the press, and
Yeah.
it was a big exhibition. And
Sure was.
It was in March, and it still snowed about a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, great stuff. We've had some good times, right?
Yeah, definitely. What
Yeah.
a ride it's been. Holy smoke. This game it's been good to me. It's good to a lot of us. And it's, it's nice to do what you love to do for a living and being able to do it for this long.
And you're still very much involved. I mean, your career has taken a shift where now it includes cultivating new players
Yeah.
through being a league owner,
Yeah.
helping
Coastal
grow the
Carolina
sport. Yeah.
APA, yeah, since 2009. And that's been really a lot of fun. A lot of fun meeting a lot of new people and people coming into the sport that maybe never been involved with it
Right.
before. So, yeah, it's full all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, helping players love the game and improve is all part of the equation, which is the perfect segue to introduce this episode of Jeremy Jones, Coach's Corner.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Jeremy Jones, and welcome to another edition of the Coach's Corner. And what we're going to be going over today is aiming with English, probably the most controversial subject in the game when it comes from one player to the next, even one coach to from one to the next. So we went in the last episode about aiming with the stance. This is going to be essential to aiming with English, at least the way I do it, and I feel like it's the best way overall, and I'll explain why. But in our last episode, we had the ghost ball up. We won't have that up here. Learned it a long time ago. But one thing that we did learn in the last is about centering up the cue, which is all about the natural shot line, which is the tip in the center going towards what I think our contact point for the 7 is. So now, when we talk about aiming with English, something I was told when I first started playing pool, 17 years old or so. One thing, there wasn't a lot of teachers, so a lot of stuff was kind of hearsay, almost like, phantom coaches, I guess you could say. But one thing that I heard a lot was if you had a decent stroke and you knew how to aim, you never had to worry about deflection. And believe it or not, even way back in the 80s, we used to talk about deflection. I know it's a hot topic in the last 20 years of pool. But so I was very curious what they meant by that, because I just kind of aimed off instinct, playing a lot of pool for a couple years. I felt like I aimed pretty well. But English was one that, I wasn't concrete on. So I was fortunate enough to learn this at 19 years old, and I've never changed my aiming since, and that's, I hate to say, 33 plus years since 19. So let's get at it and let's learn something about aiming with English. So again, we learned the shot line in the last. I'm going to do this how I usually do it, which is in more of a shooting position. And now, again, when we find the shot line, we're centering up the cue, which in my opinion is very important for aiming with English. So what we're going to do here, again, is we're getting centered up. And the way I do this with English, and I'm going to shoot this with like a low left English, and then I'll shoot it with a high right. Those are kind of the two that make sense. So I center up my body. And then once I find the shot line, I step into the shot line. I bring the cue back, like I talked about in the last episode. And now I'm going to go down with low left English. Now what I want you to do is I want you to address the ball almost like don't even think about the English. Just set it up like center ball. And as you come down, right before you get on the cue ball, I want you to think about addressing the left English. And what we'll see is as we come down, the tip is on the left side of the ball where the butt of the cue stick is in the center. Now, the reason, in my opinion, that is so important is no matter where I put the tip on the side of the cue ball, high left, low right, and everything in between, is the butt of my cue stick stays in the center. And like I said, once those guys years ago said you don't have to worry about deflection. And what I mean by that is every shot I shoot, it does not matter what shot it is, I look at it like center ball, just like the natural path. I don't worry about the English at all. I've just kind of learned if I keep the butt in the center of the cue ball, that's going to make all the tip positions very comparable on getting to the target the same. So again, look at like no English. I pick the cue stick up, I come down on the ball, and right at the last moment, I don't come down to center and pivot, and I'll explain why in a moment, but very much at the last moment, I apply the English. That keeps the butt in the center. I'm going to shoot this with low left, and then I never really have to worry about the deflection. Now, this is all depending on a fairly decent stroke. And that one was okay. So I'm going to do this again now with high right. I've set these balls up in the exact same position. So again, I'm going to get in position like there's no English. I don't think about the English at all. I just get down, center up the cue stick. Right as I'm coming down, right before, now I'm putting high right, the tip's on the right with the butt in the center. And you can see I aimed the same for both of those shots with two different Englishes. Now, there's some other things that we have to pay attention to. And I'll get back to that pivot real quick. One thing I don't like about the pivot whenever you're down on the ball and pivoting out is the butt. It's very hard to keep the butt in the center. If I go down with center ball and I pivot to the left, you can see the butt goes to the right. Now, you can get away with this because you can learn to kind of swing that way, and your mind kind of makes some adjustments. But overall, it's a little weaker ball because you're kind of coming across the cue ball instead of going more through the ball. And I think overall in pressure situations, it just doesn't seem to hold up. So I don't like the pivot too much. The other things I want to talk about is whenever I come down, you can see I am in center ball here. You can see this little seam I'm on. So that little seam is something I shoot down every shot. And so if I come down with English, now you can see that seam is a little aimed for the left side of the ball. That's another reason why later, like say you come down with center, you're one of those types of players, and then on the last swing you go to the English. Not in love with that. Because again, you're swinging across your seam, which creates resistance, and also what's happening is you're changing the tip position on the fastest swing, on the most important part of the stroke. So try to come down with the English and stay idle. There's a few other things that are very, very important. And this is probably the number one thing I like about showing someone this. And this is kind of a prover. So I'm going to do it one more time. I call this checking your shot line with English. So I'm going to come down with the low left again. You can see the tips on the left and the butts on the center. So now I want you to pivot back to center. Very important for you to finally squeeze the backhand and keep it in position. Pick up the hand, go to center ball, and you can see I'm aimed perfectly for center ball. So that kind of proves to you that I came down with a good shot line even though the tip was on the side. Now I'm going to show you one more thing about this, and this is what kind of makes things controversial. So now let's say I'm going to show you two more things. So whenever some people think you can make a parallel shift with the cue stick, meaning if the tip's on the right, you want to move the butt on the right. Now the problem with that is once we start to apply speed, and I'm going to give you an example. So if I come down and I point the tip at the target with the tip on the right, the only way the tip can be at the target with the tip on the side is if the butt's on the same side as the tip. So now I have the butt and the tip on the right side aimed at the contact point. So what you'll see is at a light speed I can get away with this because I'm not putting much pressure on the cue ball at a light speed. But once I start to put a little pressure on the cue ball, say I had to put a lot more speed to move it, what happens is we get a ton of deflection because all the mass of the cue is on one side of the cue ball. So again, at a light speed, you can think this is a good way to aim. But once we start to add speed, you'll see I'll over deflect the ball with the tip and the butt on the same side. So again, if we can, and I feel like it's a fairly foolproof way to aim, we center everything up. No matter where the tip's going, we think about no English while we're doing this. And as we come down, right at the last second, we add the English. And with this great camera work, you can see I'm nowhere near pointed at the target, but it is correct. So again, our last one, we learned how to aim with our stance, centering up the cue. That's going to lead towards great things when it comes to aiming with English. And I'll tell you, I'm convinced it's a more powerful ball that actually has less deflection. And the biggest part of it is you don't have to calculate. It just is the same as center ball. So I hope you enjoy it. Please toy with it because I think you'll love it.
Really another great segment there by our good friend Double J, Jeremy
Always,
Jones.
always
He's a
good stuff.
Class act there. So, Mike, for nearly 2 weeks now, pool is taking center stage in Las Vegas once again, and there's something really natural about that.
There is. I mean, pool in the U.S. is as connected with Vegas as that welcome sign at the south end of the Strip. The sport has a long and rich history with this city. How long? I think the first big pool event that I recall making its home in Las Vegas was the old Stardust Open, a tournament created by brother promoters George and Paulie Jansko. Now, the Janskos were the brains behind the legendary Hustlers all-around tournaments in the tiny southern Illinois town of Johnston City. In the early 1960s, they did that. Articles in Sports Illustrated and then television coverage on ABC Wide World of Sports made those events national phenomenons. And the brothers brought a second version of the event, the Stardust Open, to Las Vegas in 1965. They ran it here until 1973. The competitors and winners from that bygone era were legends like Cicero Murphy, the first African-American World Pool champion who won the Stardust Open straight pool title in 1966, and fellow Hall of Famer Joe the Meat Man Balsas. Balsas won the Stardust Open all-around title twice, in 1968 and 1969. A decade later, ambitious promoter Richie Florence coaxed a then unheard of 254 players to the old enclosed tennis courts at the Tropicana Hotel for the 9-ball World Pro-Am and its $25,000 top prize. All of the top players of the day and several hundred road players and regional stars threw their hats into that ring. Here's an image that shows a trio of Billiard Congress of America Hall of Famers. That's Alan Hopkins at the table with Nick Varner puffing a cigarette and the seat behind him. And Jason, you recognize that player in the background shooting on that table?
I sure do. Looks like the Iceman, APA co-founder Larry Hubbard, and
It is indeed
really
the
a
Iceman.
great player. A lot of folks don't realize, but Larry's a former world champion as well. So
Yeah.
the late great Larry Hubbard passed away actually 10 years ago this month. Well, while we were here in Vegas 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
certainly miss him, but a lot of contributions from him in the pool industry for sure.
Yeah. That particular $25,000 title was won by a card dealer from Reno named Warren Monk Costanzo, who beat Hall of Famer Mike Siegel in the title match, making the 9-ball on the break in the deciding game to win that title. In 1988, Caesars Palace welcomed the Brunswick World Open 9-ball championships. How's this photograph, Jason?
It's our good friend, the
a
striking
good
Viking.
friend, the striking Viking, with her former husband Jimmy Mattia behind her, with the fedora and the sunglasses, and Billy Incardona to the right. That's classic stuff there.
Like a couple of rock stars.
And in 1991, the Sahara Hotel was the site of the WPA World 9-Ball Championships. Earl Strickland and Robin Bell were crowned champions at that event, and it remains the only time the WPA world title was contested here in Las Vegas. Matchroom's World Pool Masters found its way to Las Vegas from 2008 to 2010, holding court at the Riviera Hotel and Casino. England's Darren Appleton won the title in 2009. And of course, starting in 2005, the Moscone Cup has been staged every other year here in Las Vegas, including the stirring Team USA victory in 2019 at Mandalay Bay. The Moscone Cup has also made its home at the MGM, Bally's, the Mirage, and the Tropicana. And most recently, the World 10-Ball Championship has been staged at the Rio, with Albania's Eklund Kaci winning the 2023 title. But as you're well aware, Jason, Las Vegas and pool are synonymous with the now extinct Riviera Hotel and Casino, right? You know a little bit about that place.
That I do. I was actually one of the last people to exit the old Riviera
were.
back in May of 2015. We had our national singles championship, and that was literally the last event. The next morning, I came out of my hotel room, and the pool was all fenced off. You couldn't, and I walked out front. And you remember the old bronze butts in front of the Riviera?
Yeah.
They were loading them up on the trailer and hauling them away, and
Time to get their
it was
butts out of town.
It was a strange time. You never thought you'd see people so sad about this hotel that was well beyond its prime going out. But
realistically, it hosted for about 25 years
Yeah.
virtually every National League Association's national championships every summer. So there were 25, 30,000 pool players out here in Vegas every summer for those 25 years.
yeah, I'm pretty sure the
So-
pool community helped build part of that.
Yeah, no,
particular hotel.
some of these hotels were built on the backs of pool players, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about what's happening in pool. We had a great segment with Ava Lawrence. We got Jeremy Jones, but it's time for your new favorite segment, Spot Shots. I know there's some things you wanna talk about this month. What do you got for us?
Well, the first spot shot is more of a shout out than a spot shot. We want to wish a speedy recovery to Albanian star Eklund Kaci. Kaci, who we interviewed here last episode and was in the midst of an incredible year with World 10 Ball and UK Open titles, was injured in an accident while driving off-road vehicles in the mountains of Macedonia. The 24-year-old's vehicle flipped and he suffered 2 broken bones and tendon damage in his left arm that required extensive surgery. Kaci has said that he'll be out of action for at least a couple of months, but prior to that accident, he was ranked second in the race for automatic spots on Team Europe for the Mosconi Cup.
Yeah. First off, glad he's no worse than we saw there. Obviously, a rough situation for him, but could have been much worse,
Yes,
right?
oh, of course. He's lucky to be alive.
He's still with us, and he will be back. But in the short term, it does bring in some interesting questions about, will he still be able to play in the Mosconi Cup? He
Yeah.
was positioned to be there. He's going to miss a few events, obviously. That will affect his rankings. And what condition will he be if he is playing pool by then? Will he be back to prime form that quickly with the injuries that he's had? And that's something we definitely want to keep an eye on, no doubt.
Yeah, and that's the big question. Does he come back in good form? Because I think either by points or by being selected, if he's in decent form come captain's picks time, you think they would want to give him a shot because he certainly earned it this year. He was probably the hottest player on the planet for 2023. And you hate to see him not get that opportunity. So, we hope he comes back. We hope he comes back soon. We hope he comes back as strong as ever. And I'd love to see him in London in December.
For sure. But, if he doesn't make it, Team Europe still well positioned to stack their lineup as always. They got a huge pool of talent to choose from. So if he can't make it, I'm sure somebody will step in and fill that void.
Yeah.
No doubt. So obviously we've talked about Kaci and the impact on the Mosconi Cup. There's other big Mosconi Cup news that we are anticipating this coming week, is there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Mosconi Cup questions are going to be answered in the next couple of weeks, including the announcements of captains for Team USA and Team Europe. Matchroom boss Emily Frazier said they've already made their final decisions on who the captains will be, and they're going to announce those this coming Friday. Also, the first automatic spots are all but locked up. Officially, the first secured spots are scheduled to be determined following next week's European Open, but with Eklund Kaci's injury, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has an unsurpassable lead at the top of the Team Europe points list. And for Team USA, Skylar Woodward would really need to lose really early at the European Open, and Shane Van Boening would need at least a second place finish to prevent Woodward from earning his spot on Team USA.
Yeah, so it sounds like on one front there's not a lot of drama there, right? We expect that later this week FSR and Sky Woodward to be named the first for their respective teams in the Mosconi Cup, and congratulations to them, assuming that it comes to fruition as we expect. But the real drama there is these captains picks that we're still waiting and everybody's talking about who could it possibly
We're finally
be.
going to know.
Yeah, we know that Team Europe's captain Alex Lely of the last few years has said he stepped back and said, someone else needs to take the reins. Obviously, Jeremy Jones for Team USA is a strong pick if they go that way, but he's gotten fairly involved in a lot of other things Matchroom has going on,
Right.
and maybe that doesn't make sense. And so, if it's not them, then who?
Well, there have been some inklings that Laley has kind of reconsidered his self-imposed retirement from captaincy. So apparently his name is back into picture a little bit. For whose side, who knows?
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, we've seen Matchroom go with this formula before with Johan Reisink, where very successful with Team Europe, steps away, comes back, captains Team USA to 2 titles in 3 years.
Yeah.
Is there any potential that we'd see Alex cross the lines and take on in that quickly? Go from one team in 2022 to another in 2023.
You never say never, but that would be, I think, unless they really had a justification for not wanting Jeremy to come back as Team USA captain. Say, for instance, they're giving him more responsibility. They don't want that conflict involved like they have with Carl Boyes. That would be one thing. But to replace him with Alex just as a captain would be really kind of a weird thing to me. Not sure who other people are in the equation for the U.S. In Europe, they've talked about Niels Feijen.
Yeah.
But Niels is, he's still up in the high in the
he wants
rankings,
to
and he's
play,
got
right?
aspirations to make that 5-man team.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be interesting. It could be as simple as Laley and Jones again,
Right.
or it could be complete upheaval, and we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that.
Yeah, so we only have a few more days to speculate, and
Yes.
then obviously Friday, and hopefully we will be bringing you guys that news as soon as it breaks. Figure out who's going to be leading the teams this year. So
Yeah.
obviously we've talked about Moscone Cup, changes in rankings and things, but there's a number of events coming up on the calendar
There are.
in the next several weeks. Let's take a look ahead at what those events are.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like I said, you got the European Open starting on Tuesday, the longstanding Turning Stone Classic at the end of August. And then in September, you've got the China Open Men's and China Open Women's event, followed by the return of the Predator Pro Billiards Series with the Michigan Open Men's Division and Women's Division. And then late September, the U.S. Open Pool Championship, which will be fantastic in Atlantic City, followed by the WPBA Iron City Invitational.
Wow.
So a lot of great stuff coming up.
Good
a lot
time
of
to
great
be a
stuff.
pro pool player, right?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot
absolutely.
of fun. Well, that's going to do it for us today. For Jason Bowman, I'm Mike Pinozzo. Thanks very much for joining us. Until we see you next time, may all your shots be hangers, and we'll see you next time on Billiards Digest Live.